One of the sponsors has been with us from the beginning is our friends out in North Carolina, Highland Canine at Tactical Police Canine, letter K number 9, training.com. They are full service from top to bottom, left to right, north, south, east to west. They have everything, pointy ears, floppy ears, whatever you want. And they are a full service kennel doing seminars as well as handler schools for completed dogs and as well as green dogs. So be sure to hit them up, Highland Canine at tacticalpolicecaninetraining.com. The Fergusons are fantastic people. Jason's been on the podcast as well, so go look up his episode.
Our one of my favorite sponsors is Dogtra. The folks over at dogtra.com. They've been doing this for a long time, guys. Their e-collars, bark collars, everything they do, we love it. We have a great relationship with them. They give a discount code WDR10 for 10% off any single item over $200. I tell everybody I have a kennel full of Dogtra e-collars. Most importantly, I have a kennel full of Dogtra bark collars. The YS600 to me is the best piece of equipment in all of dogs. Check them out, dogtra.com. Check them out on Instagram at dogtraofficial.
We really like the guys at Ray Allen Manufacturing. They've been around for freaking ever. They were making working dog equipment before there were working dogs for working bison, apparently. So, and their product designer is one of our favorite people, Matt Wilson. We love Matt. So rayallen.com. And everyone thinks, it's only for police and military dogs. And that's not the case. If you have a working dog, whether it's police and military or search and rescue or even hunting, and even if you got pets, they have literally everything minus the dog and the patrol car that you would need to outfit a working team or a pet team for anything, whether it be scent work, whether it be AKC or UKC scent work, all the way up to explosive and narcotics detection for military and police teams and everything in between. So be sure to hit them up at rayallen.com. Use the discount code Working Dog Radio spelled out for 10% off your order.
Absolutely, not even probably. Our first sponsor and longest sponsor is Arno over at ALM. Probably, to me anyways, one of the best guys in all canine. His website, almcanineequipment.com. You can get on there, give him a call, email him. He's the only guy you're going to talk to. almcanineequipment.com. He has easily the best tugs in the business. His bite suits are amazing. They last for a long time. Ted will tell you he's got the same jacket since Noah threw the ark out there. And his hidden sleeve, I still say, is the best in the business. Check him out. Use a discount code WD Radio, all spelled out, 10% off your first order. Check him out on Instagram, ALM Canine Equipment. All right, Working Dog Radio, we are back broadcasting The Bite. Another great episode coming at you. I hope you guys liked the last one with our friend Jake Lawrence. If you're a breeder or want to be a breeder or really interested in puppy, man, that was an awesome episode. I really liked it. My name is Eric Stamber, coming to you from Canton, Ohio. Finally warming up over here for now. It is Ohio. It'll snow next month probably. But with me always is from Tulsa, Ted, who had a cold winter this year. Ted, what's going on, man? You finally creep out.
We would have won in 20 something. Last time it was this cold was 1980. I don't know. I was 3 when it was this cold.
Just stop.
I'm
right
just
there,
saying,
motherfucker. I was probably graduating.
It was cold. It was real cold. I had to turn the air conditioner on today though, so I was like, oh man, it's fucking hot in here. And so I had to turn the air conditioner on, which I'm super excited about, which means that I can wear fucking sleeveless t-shirts now.
Oh, here we go.
Which is my favorite fucking training attire. If you've ever been doing HRD, first day I'm there, and the second and third days I show up, and I'm still there, but it's usually hot as shit unless it's in the wintertime when we're doing them. And I'm like, this is just too hot. We did the one in Texas when we were in Irving, and that was, I had the drone flying and it was so hot. It had a thing on the screen. It was like, what the fuck? What is this?
Yeah, it says, hey, Icarus, land.
No, exactly. That's what it was. It was overheating. And that was how hot it was in fucking Irving. And, I'm still wearing the pants I was wearing, but I had on sleeveless t-shirts. So I have an entire closet section of all my.
Yeah. Those are for usually day 3. Ted's got sleeveless shirt and a hat that says, hey, fuck face on it.
It doesn't always say that. It's just the one time.
There's another one that's horrible. We won't even say that.
When I had to
about
take it
your
off
intelligence.
for the interview in West Virginia when the news showed up and everyone was like, "You have to do this," and I'm like, "I'm not dressed to do. I'm not being on TV." So I was on TV, but it was not
with hat head because we had to take it off.
Right. So
like
I look like
like the sheriff is there and the news media shows up. He has "Hey fuck face."
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, "Oh, shiny shoes showed up." Time somebody shows up with shiny shoes and stripes on their sleeves, I'm like, "Oh man, we're in trouble. Who did this?" And they're like, "Oh no, that was fine. Like, they're supposed to, they knew we were going to be here." I'm like, "Ah."
What are you telling me? He's a homeless dude. Look, we got a homeless guy coming to help us. It's pretty cool.
Exactly. Tattooed shitbag. So we did one of these last night, so nothing has changed. I'm still working on the same 3 dogs we tracked today. I did single blind tracking today with Pepper and another dog. So my intern Paul ran off and I kind of gave him a direction. I was like, "Go this way." And for a certain amount of time at this pace, so I kind of have a gauge of where he went. And the 2 dogs crushed it. And we had, because it's so windy. I mean, it's in the state song, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain in Oklahoma. It was windy as shit today. March and April in Oklahoma are just the most windiest fucking days. So I have these places that we track that's got trees and stuff. So it like breaks it a little bit. It's good because it kind of gives us a little bit of a challenge if you got a dog that's in the right process, that's in the right, spot in their training. So these dogs were, I was like, because it's been a rain tonight and I'm not going to track tomorrow. So,
all right. So the next day you track, this is what I want you to do. I want you to have your intern give him something to do. Go lay your own track and then go tell him to run off and then run your normal, the one you laid, and then just go go home.
Leave him out there. He's like,
"How long are we aging? Dude, where are you?
How long are we aging this one? 24 hours. Did you bring something to eat?" And a sleeping bag. He's a Marine. He's fine. They eat fucking tree bark and shit anyway. They're fine, right? I mean, so what
are we doing, man?
So tonight, we have somebody on that we've actually been on his show, which we'll talk about. But we figured it was time to have him on to talk about a myriad of topics. But tonight from Primal Canine is Mike Jones. Mike, what's going on, man?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on. Big fan of the show. I've been following you guys for years, so I'm pretty stoked to be on here and talking to you guys and just hanging out. And yeah, we did the Drinks and Dogs episode, which actually contributed to our food program that was helping people during COVID when we first launched it. So thanks for going on to that too, guys. Appreciate it.
So talk a little bit about the Drinks and Dogs things and like what it is and where people can find it. At the end of the episode, we'll talk about it a little bit too. But we basically did this format and talked about some other topics. But yeah, like kind of talk a little bit about that and how that process came about. And it ties into another topic that we'll talk into about it a little bit here and later. But yeah.
Yeah. So Drinks and Dogs, essentially when the whole COVID quarantine thing happened out here in California, my team took it pretty seriously. So we just went right into all right, we gotta lock down because my daughter doesn't live with me. So I have to make sure that I'm good so I can see her all the time. So we locked down and me and my team kind of went into this thought process of all right, cool. How can we still provide, content and education to our clients, but still make it fun and kind of connect all the dog trainers all through all the different sectors of dog training. Me and G and Roman, you guys have talked to them. I was like, what's better than like a happy hour with your dog trainer friends, and where you where you guys can just talk and have fun. So it just kind of came up, and we just ran with it, and it just kind of continuously went in. People were really receptive to it. I was really happy with how everyone responded to it. Everyone I essentially asked. I mean, I was even offering to pay people, hey, you want to come down? I just want to provide something for the dog training community so people can see it, and it's a fun show. It's joking around. You guys have had conversations with me. I'm pretty light when it comes to how I talk. So I just wanted to create something that was fun, and it kind of spiraled into everything that it is now.
And your most recent one you had on, or I don't know if you've done it yet or it's getting ready to happen with Howard Young, right?
Yeah, Howard's what's today? Today's Wednesday. Yeah. Howard and Rob Pelladou's tomorrow.
Yeah, so Howard's been on the show to date. Still my favorite interview for Working Dog Radio for everybody listening. Not to disparage any of the other guests, but I love Howard to death. But yeah, that'll be
good dude, man.
That'll be a fun episode for sure. Howard's awesome. Yeah, so it's a similar format to what we do here, but and it's a different feel for sure. But it's great that it was, and COVID was a whole fucking shit show in and of itself, and it still is. People are like, "Oh, we're at the 2-year anniversary or at the 1-year anniversary of the 14 days to flatten the curve," and I'm like, "You mean 14 months?" We're still fucking worried about it. So let's talk a little bit about how we got to today. Like, how did you get into dogs? Like, what, like, what, how did we get here?
I mean, shoot. So I started working with dogs when I was 13 years old. I started in, I think we've had this conversation before. Like, I started kind of like in the hood of like East Side San Jose, and just working with dogs outside, like just not even knowing I was working with dogs, all the stray dogs outside of my house, just not even knowing it was happening. That was my escape, what was going on. Then I got a little bit of trouble. My community service work was at a shelter, and I just kind of fell in love with it. I mean, that was like my escape from my reality. So dogs became a really important part of my life fairly early. And then life kind of took its course. I got into fighting and everything like that. I got in a little bit of trouble, and then came out of that stuff. Met up with the friend of a friend's, like family member, Terry Macias, who became my first mentor around like the age of 2021, and that was Schutzen. But I learned everything in the rescue world, and like the shelter world. So you guys probably know well, obviously you guys know the differences of thought process between when Schutzen was Schutzen and rescue. So like,
yeah, we talked about that last night with Jake. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, we talked about that. Yes. So
Yeah, it's I walk onto a field and all of a sudden I just see like, prong collar pop, 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 pop. And I'm used to this little lady with the clicker and the freaking food. Like what the hell is happening here? Like, I had to like step back into my car real quick. I'm like, all right, like let's just go ahead and figure out what the hell is going on.
Take a breath, right?
Yeah. I'm just like, let me just see what's happening here. And I understood the thought process. And then from that point being, I just kind of just, all right, I'm just going to absorb. These guys are national world champions, doing all this stuff in Schutzen. And, they had dogs that looked great. I mean, the relationships were a bit weird to me. But it just, what I saw on the field and their accolades, I was like, all right, cool. Let me just follow and kind of see what I can learn. I did that for a long time. Life took its course again at a mixed martial arts gym. And then kind of I had to keep going back to dogs. Dogs was my deal, and I started Primal Canine actually April 1st will be the 8-year anniversary of Primal Canine. But prior to that, I had like 2 years of just doing my own dog training thing before I opened that. And Primal Canine itself is its own journey, its own story about how we got here. It's been
you've had some moving issues. You came into a place and they were like, nope.
Yeah.
So how'd you come up with the name? Where did the Primal Canine come from?
So at the time I was fighting when I first started it. So my was a really good friend of mine, Omar Lima. He was my strength and conditioning coach when I fought for Fairtex, and we were training over there. And we were talking about like the people always just like called me like a gorilla because I'm basically built like a giant midget. I got like short legs, long arms, and a giant torso. I'm like a 6 foot tall, small person. So it's like everyone's like, you're like a gorilla. So the thought process was like, all right, when we started training, was like, all right, like primal movements and like all this other stuff, like natural way of communicating. And the people at the shelter that I was helping at, or the kennel I was helping at, was like, man, so you have just like this natural like connection with the dogs that you're helping with. Because at that time I was actually donating my time after work, after one of my jobs, to help this kennel called Springdale Kennels get the dogs, because people would just drop dogs off there and just leave and never come back for the dogs. So what I would do is I would work with the county, and I would come in and train the dogs that were just dropped off there so they get euthanized, and I help them get adopted out. And the time the kennel manager, his name was Jeff, he basically was like, hey man, he was like, you got this connection with like the dogs, like then I had like the Primal thing, so it all kind of, they actually suggested it to actually be the name, and that's how Primal Canine, the name, came out. but yeah, I mean, then Primal Canine itself just went, a completely different direction once we launched it.
Yeah, you got quite the footprint on social media in the canine world. It's awesome to see. So let me ask you a question. I was talking about this today. I was doing a little bit of decoy school for someone, and I'm wondering if because I know you do a lot of decoy work. You probably teach them decoy stuff, handle a million leashes a week, just like all of us do. Do you find that your time doing the mixed martial arts, not as far as like physically how you would like if you would have to get physical with a dog. That's not what I mean. What I mean is, do you think just the fluid movement and the way your the athleticism that's involved in your past is really a key to the decoy work, and not just the decoy work, just actually handling dogs and the way things move? Or do you think, because I find more athletically inclined people seem to be a little bit, even as dog owners or canine handlers, seem to be a little bit ahead of the curve in that whole thing.
So it works its way in two different sides, right? I feel like if you're athletically inclined, you're going to anticipate a lot, especially if you're really green in that world, right? Whereas if you're seasoned, you've learned how to read it, you've seen the amount of stress, you can react when you need to react. And like the way that I think about it always is being like a good sparring partner. So like whether I'm getting ready for a fight or whether I'm getting, a partner of mine ready for a fight, like we're slipping punches at the last minute, we're pairing, we're doing a bunch of different things. So like with my dogs, when I'm training with them, and I do think it does give me an advantage considering I've seen like quite a bit of stress and quite a bit of pressure as like a person and violence and everything like that. I think it does help me because I'm not overly anticipating it and I'm reacting when the actual thing happens, right? So I think it does help me in the decoy aspect of things and the fluidity of it and just the movements for the years I've been doing it. And then I think a lot of the times too is that the athleticism, like people who are, because I get a lot of like apprentices and people who want like mentorship programs that I talk to, and a lot of it like they're athletes, so like a lot of them are just like it's them versus a dog. Like there's a lot of like anticipated movements, and I feel like that can be a downfall for them as well. Whereas like if you're just someone who's thinking about being like, all right, cool, how can I make this dog bigger, use or better, and use my athleticism to build them, that thought process helps. But I in my opinion, for my life, it's helped me tons. For other people that I've seen and people that I've mentored, I've seen it kind of be a downfall in their career, and then I've seen it work for some others. So, I mean, I would say the percentage would be on the yes, it does help.
Without a doubt. Like my background is in like competitive cycling. So and I've always been kind of like an endurance athlete. So I've never really had an issue with the endurance side of it. Even as a trial decoy for PSA, that's never been like my problem. And my problems were like other shit, but it definitely does help. One of somebody I used to work with quite a bit. Um, and something that I repeat to new decoys and new police canine handlers all the fucking time. And whether it's decoy work or handling, especially detection work, where I say, don't anticipate, just participate. Like you're here as a participant in this process. Like, and they're like, well, I think the dog's going to do this. I'm like, yeah, you're probably wrong. Like, rarely, well, I mean, it happens, but where a dog does something that surprises me, which is like last night, the interview before this, I was like, that's why I always hug the wall at HRDs. And they're like, oh, he's social. I'm like, I bet he is. Yeah, it's fine. You know how many times I've been smoked by social dogs? So, and Eric too. So like, I'm like, yeah, I'm good. But so don't anticipate, just participate. So, and I, and it goes back to like one of my friends here in Tulsa is a really good shooting instructor, who I would consider somebody like national level. His name's Chuck Smith. We've been trying to get him to fucking do a podcast forever. He runs a company called 50 Tactical. It's fucking great. And he's a former canine handler, but he's a fantastic instructor. But he's always like, I hate having to break habits. And people see shit or they do things, and I'm constantly like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? And I do that with handlers, whether they're handling for detection work or whether they're in decoy work. I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, why are you doing that? And they're like, well, I saw somebody else do it. And I'm like, well, why are they doing it? And they look at me and I'm like, I don't mind if you do it. Like, I don't care. Like, just tell me what the fuck, like why you're doing that. And they're like, well, I mean, I don't really know. I'm like, oh, okay. So, then we start talking about, after the athleticism comes in, it's like, okay, what is the role of a decoy, whether it be a training decoy, a, maintenance decoy for patrol work for police departments, or for the sports side, like a patrol or like a trial decoy. So then we get into teaching like what the role is for decoys. So for you, like teaching, when you teach new guys, like what's the, like, how do you give them like what the role of, like what your role is in this entire process?
So all of my decoys that come in, if I'm teaching a seminar, if I'm teaching an apprentice, um, it's I always, the thing I instill in them is like, you're the one that's going to make this dog better. You're the one that's in charge of faults, your faults. Their success is the handlers and the dog's success. Like that's pretty much what you gotta do. But your job is to reinforce movements. And I train it in the way that I would train like when I'm training like students in like boxing. It's they do movements without the dog, like basically like drills, like movements. Like I'll tell them catch, they catch the dog. There's no dog there, and they do movements like hitting mitts or hitting a punching bag, and then I put a dog on them. And the mindset I always want them to understand is when we're training these dogs is that your reinforcers, your muscle movement inside the suit, your noise when the dog counters and does deep, like it does a deep counter, like you're basically all the markers that come with it, you're teaching them every single time. Like, and when initially, because everyone that typically that I get that wants to be a like decoy, everyone's like, it's for them a lot of it's egocentric, like ego, like it's very much like, like I want to go and fight the dog. Like, no, we're not fighting the dog. We're training the dog to, if it needs to, be able to fight proficiently in what they're doing. So I scale down a lot of it, and then sometimes I have to build up some other people to come in where I'm like, all right, make more noise, because a lot of people get stuck in that little stress mode. But a lot of for me, I'm teaching all my apprentices, all the trainers that come through here, everyone that comes through here. It's teaching proper bite mechanics, how to mark, how to move your arm, how to move your body, and then once we get to specific levels, then I'm like, all right, cool, let's go ahead and trial and test and see what we can do. But for the most part, it's just getting the dogs comfortable and making sure that the trainer, the decoy is understanding of actually what they're doing, and things aren't that quick fast motion thing that they adrenaline dump right into, and then they're just shutting off, like they're just like, like being crazy, but they're actually turning this into a constructive moment. So I train all my guys in the training aspect of it first.
Yeah, we use we try, and when I do them here in Tulsa, I use dogs that are experienced. And my main like intern, he's no longer an intern now. He's in college, but he's an accomplished decoy in his own right, Josh. But for the first 2 years he worked with me, he never worked with puppies or green dogs. Like I just wouldn't let him. And it was like, you're gonna work with dogs that know what the fuck they're doing. Like they're gonna target correctly. And and I told him, I took him to a seminar, and I said, you're probably going to see some dogs that you are not familiar with, or you're going to see a bunch of them actually, and they may not do something that's expected. So he worked like two, and he's like, dude, why are they biting me in this spot? And I'm like, so, how, and I say this all the time without like, I'm not diming people out, but just without, when, for instance, when I go to a PSA trial and I'm the decoy doing the PSA one of the PDC courage test, where, we're running downfield and we're presenting, or if it's the one we're running anyway, we're presenting. And as PSA decoys, we don't fade, we don't do anything weird. And if they hit me like way wide, or they hit me center chest, I'm like, I know what that training decoy has done. Same thing with like police dogs. When you present a forearm and you don't move, like you're just like this, and they hit you right super low, I'm like, you either have a nerve problem, or whoever's worked you is fucking scared of you. Just sticking your fucking hand in their mouth. And even when presented, like, you pull it back so that the plane is out here. And for people listening, you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm sticking my elbow out. And I'm like, here, motherfucker, bite me in the forearm and bite me in the elbow. They're like, nope, they'll come around and bite you in the forearm and the wrist. And I'm like, okay, I see what's going on here. And so like, I really try to give these guys good mechanics from the get go. Yeah. And I'm like, don't put your fucking hand anywhere you wouldn't put your dick. Like, keep it back, keep it flat, and stick your forearm in their mouth, not your fucking hand. But how often do you see dogs that you don't work with on, like, where you present correctly and the dogs are just like, fuck you, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And you're like, well, that's why I wear pants. So
so we have a mutual friend. I'm not gonna put him on blast or anything like that. And we went to an area. I'll just say it's Colorado. And we're filming something. And a company that I know, Ted, you're a really big fan of, with the transfer providers. Well, their dogs were there, and I was wearing a hidden sleeve. I was working the PD dogs for this video. The dog breaks out of the building that it was in, and it's me, our friend, the police officer, the Canine, the film crew, and the dog comes charging out. And before this whole thing happened, and the guys were awesome. I'm not talking shit, but everyone was cool there. But the what was told to me is the dog bites hands and faces. So I'm wearing the smallest Ray Allen hidden sleeve, and like it's from here to here. And I hear our mutual friend yell, "Dog on the field, dog on the field." I'm looking at the PD dog, because the PD dog almost got me live right beforehand. And then this dog comes charging out, and I run in like I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna shove my shoulder down like this dog, like elbow down this dog's mouth, or like trying to run him like off the field. And the dog like came in, like I think tagged me once like on the elbow, and I kind of just stood in front of it and blocked off like the film crew until someone was able to get him. But but yeah, once you said that, I had to bring that up because I remember all the Facebook stuff.
But did you die?
I didn't even get bit. I got like
yes.
The dog got ran off. So I think we were talking about mechanics, but I mean, I teach all my guys. I put through like an incredible amount of stress. Like for the longest time, when you were a decoy trying out for me, like I would physically exhaust you the same way I would do like in what I was taught when it came to like fighting and combat sports, because I would physically exhaust and I would start to build muscle memory stuff. So if dogs were something happens, hits leg, you know what to do. There's a drill that's called dog panicking in my seminars, where the dog or the decoy has to get up to a stable position and stabilize the grip, and they do this without the dog. But I mean, at all times, like there's a lot of different moving parts, and they have a different understanding of what to do. Like when a dog is freaking out, or like especially because I do a lot of groundwork. What happens when a dog starts pulling out, starts chomping, starts moving, drifting up the sleeve, doing things like that. How to reset, how to communicate to the handler, whether it's sport, personal protection, law enforcement stuff when we do it. But yeah, I mean, like I focus. You guys probably notice if you guys see like any of our like social media, we focus quite a bit. I mean, everyone looks very similar when it comes to the mechanics and how they work. It's just because we just focus a lot on those mechanics and understand how to respond to all those little different things. Or like Ted, like you said, on the trial field, sometimes the dog's gonna give you a different look, and that's another way that I actually created the street league catches that we've been working, is because the dogs are going to give them different looks from different sports, but it has to be something that's transitional, and the decoy has to be able to compete, and also catch dogs safely.
So one of the things I always tell people is that when we're training, especially police dogs, if it's just me and the dog, or Ted the dog, or whatever, we do that all day long, right? No problem, no worries. Then the human being comes in, right? The handler comes in, and we're going to teach a green handler, or maybe even experienced handler with a new style or a new dog. I always say that you have to be a study in human psychology to do that, right? You need to really understand how people learn. And if you have 3 or 4 students teaching them decoy work, cleaning kennels, I mean, everything, they all are going to learn maybe a little bit differently. I mean, a couple of them might be pretty similar. So what's your approach? How do you get to that kind of where you figured out, hey, this guy must repeat back to me everything I say. This guy one time can do it. This one must be shown. Is that something you try to just, it naturally happens, or you kind of figure that out pretty quick?
I mean, I like, for me, like the biggest thing is relationship. So like when someone comes in and applies to be an apprentice, or like let's say in the beginning with the Primal Canine apprentice programs, just like the start of that, when someone comes in and they're going to hang out with me, hours and hours, throughout the week, and donate a bunch of time, I need to make sure like something's going to click there, and I have to. For me, I look at what makes that person learn best. That's the way that I apply the same like psychological thing when it comes to dogs, and I just try to okay, like you learn, like for example, right now I have like 5 apprentices. Few of them learn through just me like being blunt and like that stuff.
Mhm.
Some of them you need more reasoning. Some of them you need like, a little bit different guidance. But when I go on to a seminar, I kind of have to, and I hate the word, but like kind of have to form a cookie cutter format because we only have so many hours in the day, and there's teams and decoys and everything like that there. So I always try to adapt to that person's learning style, just because I want to make sure they get the best out of what we're doing and like the money they're spending and everything like that. So for me, like I always try to adapt to that learning style. I want to make sure that it's not just like, all right, cool, like it's the same process that I apply to dogs. It's not my way. Okay, like this is how you learn. This is how I want to make sure that you learn and become as accessible as possible, and we'll go from there. And I just kind of adapt to it. But yeah, I mean, like they all decoys, especially in high stress. I mean, some decoys don't they don't they don't once they're in that moment, they're not going to be receiving information. And then you get decoys that were in that moment, they can see things clear and they can be fine. And I just kind of adapt to each one.
So, real quick, and we're going to take a break after this one question because we've got a ton of stuff to talk about. We've had, I don't know, half the guests on here. We've talked about marker training. The other half we've talked about decoy work. So we do a lot of that type of conversations. But I don't think people understand. And I was talking about with that group that I'm working with. I was talking about today because they're dog trainers, they're pet dog trainers, but dog trainers. So they understand the markers, what a marker is, and the philosophy behind it. But how do you talk about that in your decoy stuff about being the decoy, marking the behavior? Uh, do you use the marker that they're used to? Is it a noise that you use? How do you do that? When like say we're going to work on a punching grip on a dog that's pulling. We'll use that as an example as to the marker that we would use for that.
So typically, and I deal with this a lot in Memphis when I do my seminars out there. I teach them my perspective on how I would do certain things, like with my opinion and how I would fix those behaviors. Because I don't like dogs who, pull like just, I just my opinion. I just don't like that because I just figure the dog's gonna be ripping off sweaters or jackets or whatever it may be in case they need to actually bite somebody. So what I do is I just tell the decoy, all right, let's say it's a bicep bite, show them proper position, left foot in front, have the dog not be lazy and drag down, you're walking backwards. And I use like, muscle flexion when it comes to the dog counters and bites. You flex, you make a noise, boop, that's a marker. The handler says, good job. The dog understands it versus, the other approach where everyone's like pressure on, pressure off, and everyone wants the smoke type of vibe when I go out there and everyone's just flailing around, rah, 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 and then the dog's not really getting clear things, and the dog's pulling back. So for me, I teach the decoys like almost incremental pressure, and then also be able to mark the actual counters and digs and build off of those things. Because I deal with a lot of different types of dogs, like not just like we don't deal with tons of like law enforcement and stuff, but I deal with like a lot of people who just want to do this for fun. Like it's a sport. Like it's still just like, oh hey, it's a good time. You know, executive level protection dogs, sport dogs. We deal with a wide variety of different types of dogs. So the marker system for us, I teach my guys that by proper footwork, learning how to adjust, what's happening in the suit, what the dog can feel, also your verbal reward, and then the handler themselves understanding how to verbally reward that as well. So I mean, like those are the different things that I work with my basically with my team and with the clients that we have.
Do you? Here's a question I asked on Facebook one time, and I got a bunch of answers that were pretty similar. And I don't know. I think people were guessing myself. Is if we're working something in a NAPOPO type style where it's negative reinforcement and then the first positive, the removal is the first positive and then the second positive, and we're teaching it out using that, or even if we're teaching, like I have a dog, he's a young dog, and I'm covering his eyes, right? Because it's a little bit of pressure on him when he punches. I teach him to punch it away. Do you think that the removal of pressure is it's a marker in and of itself, or should you throw a marker in on top of that?
I think it depends on the dog, 100% on that. If they view that as a marker, I like to throw, like, just for me in general, like if I'm working puppies, like I'm raising a puppy right now, and like if I do like a Belgian style like grip here, like we'll put like a little bit like the, kind of putting like the eye, covering the eyes or the nose, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden the counter. Then I like to just flinch my arm and pull back just a bit and just kind of reward that way with a tiny verbal marker, because it builds that way. I like that style of it. For me, I want the dog to be able to kind of fight by itself. So I don't really like a lot of, I mean, you guys have seen the videos. I don't do tons of like handler involvement unless we're doing a combative scenario, where the handler has to be involved in it. But for training purposes, when I'm starting off in the beginning, I like the dog to kind of be able to work on itself and then kind of go from there. But like as the way, for me, like I'll put my hand up, I'll put pressure on the dog's collar, push them back out a little bit. All of a sudden, they get a little bit whiny, and next, the counter, boom, oh, good job. Or I'll put them on the head, do that way. I'll do pretty much to whatever until they counter and go from there, or even like bottom pressure or top pressure. But I mean, I think it depends on the dog. I mean, if it works for them, it works for them. I think, I mean, there was that saying, like, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat type of a thing. I mean, there's
Mhm.
bad training, there's good training, and but there's a bunch of different applications to it, when it comes to like the bite stuff and the genetic lines and everything like that from the dogs that we're working.
That's a pretty good point that you bring up about like that Eric asked about the marker because, and you said it too. You said, you hear the dog say good boy, whatever, or you the handler say good boy. One of the things that we constantly yell about the handlers is like you're saying good boy when they're doing shit that we don't want them to do, like fucking pulling or like, so at that point I'm like, okay, well, one, does the marker have value, right? So then we have to have a conversation is, have you loaded that word? Like, does it have value? Is it timed correctly? Like all this other shit. And second of all, if it does, why the fuck are you rewarding terrible behavior? Shut up. So, well, I mean, in a little bit different terms, but you're like, no, he's not. And like, no, don't say anything to him. Stop talking. And it creates a lot of problems. And that's the thing. Like, how do we? And that's something that I work on a lot with decoys that work with us is like creating a consistent, I hate to say the word language because we're not actually fucking talking to the dogs, but we have to establish like, okay, like when we teach marker training to, Subtle's the best at doing this shit or teaching it like with the fucking chickens, right? Like here, run around and put your nose on the poker chip and then I'll mark it, right? Run up the thing, run up the little seesaw and run down and then jump over the deal and jump the thing. Like the chickens run the obstacle course, right? So they do these each individual little behaviors. So there's like a big old list of behaviors that they do, right? So from the onset, I teach guys, I'm like, okay, these are the behaviors that you want to reinforce. This is how you reinforce them. And they're like, oh, and the handlers are like, yeah. And I'm like, you shut up. No one cares what you think.
Mm.
Like the decoy is the only person that matters here because if you're way the fuck out here in the middle of a building or wherever you're doing something else, the dog, like you said, has to be able to work alone. So then we have to create a common language where the decoy and the handler, or the decoy and the dog, can communicate without the handler or without the decoy giving the dog like overt commands like Stalin or whatever, right? Unless it's a fucking bailout situation where you're like, hey, don't come off and go find your dad and act like a
Yes.
weirdo, right? So, which you talk about some ground competitive stuff when we talk about the island, one of the scenarios we do at HRD where we do the ground competitive thing, right? So in that scenario, we're doing, the handler's laying on his back. We put the dog in a forearm grip on a hidden sleeve or wherever, like somewhere here. And then we put him in a front guard and the handler's got to get away from it. Well, as we call it the island, because as a decoy, you can't reinforce or not reinforce or you can't really punish, but we can't do anything. Like when the dog does something correctly, like I can't reinforce it. I'm worried about what the handler's doing with his hands. I'm worried about where his hips are. I'm worried about where my hips are, his feet are. So we're on our own, even though we're all there touching each other like a big circle jerk. There's nothing going on. Like I can't reinforce. The dog's by himself. I buy, and he is. And you only get there. And I say this when I teach guys that, and I say, and when we do this at HRD, we do this on the last day for the decoy schools and during the when we do it during actual HRD, I say, they're on your own. Like I know he's there, but that's it. Like the dog's got to do it. Like there is no try. There is no like fucking, do or do not. Like he has to do it, and he has to do it correctly without reinforcement. Now we have a safety guy with a leash just in case the dogs get wonky. We usually select the dogs that have great grips and don't give a shit. Like they're like people are like, I'm like, whose dog has a problem outing? And people raise their hand. I'm like, yep, okay, I'm gonna because they're not gonna come off. It doesn't matter. So yeah. On that note, we're gonna take a break. We come back. We're gonna pick up with some equipment stuff and a little more training stuff. So yeah, don't fast forward through the fucking commercials. Look for the discount codes for sure.
So sorry to interrupt the great conversation we are having, but we have amazing sponsors that we need to bring to you. One of our favorites, one of our oldest, is Southern Coast Canine. The folks down there, the Heisers, they are great folks down there in Smyrna, New Smyrna, Florida, right? They got everything you need to do down there, guys. Full service kennel, southerncoastcanine.com. Give them a call, 877-903-DOGS. The Southern Coast Canine folks have killer dogs, guys. Everyone we've seen have been badass. Check them out on Instagram at Southern Coast Canine.
Everybody knows that training is super important. One of the best training conferences in the country is HITS. It's by canine handlers for canine handlers. HITS Canine, letter K, number 9.net. The largest vendor show in the country, the largest giveaway for handlers in the country, and some of the most skilled instructors in the country, plus Eric and I. We're going to be there July 6th through the 9th in Scottsdale, Arizona, bringing the HRD Roadshow to everyone there, doing the presentation about scenario-based training. And then they've got everybody there from the industry to do fantastic presentations. Also, classifies and certify for your training hours when you come back to your department. So it's going to be in Scottsdale, Arizona, July 6th to the 9th. Be sure to hit up Jeff Barrett, 863-529-5113, or hits Canine, letter K number 9.net.
The other big thing that guys mess around with and don't get right is nutrition for their dogs. Our good friends down at Kinetic Dog Food, they got it right. Especially if you own a kennel. Like there's all kinds of problems that go along with owning a kennel with a lot of dogs, kennel stress and things. These guys are great. They service some of the largest kennels in the country. KineticDogFood.com. Their stuff is so good. Give them a call, 513-615-6904. Kinetic Dog Food on Instagram. Wonderful people, wonderful food. Check them out, KineticDogFood.com.
Next up, we have a sponsor that's moved us for quite a while, Quick Derm by Vet Care. This stuff is magic. For whatever reason, working dogs have this uncanny ability to hurt themselves in fantastic and magical ways. Don't let small problems be big ones. Happy tail, torn up paws. One of our good buddies and also one of our interviews, Jake Hutchinson, his dog got kicked in the face by a horse. The stitches were healed up very quickly with Vet Care. I use it on my tattoos. Alicia just got a new one and she's using it as well. Stuff is magic. So hit them up at vetcare.us. Use the discount code 10WDR for 10% off your first order. Awesome stuff.
Our brand new sponsor, guys, and he's a good dude, man. He really is a good dude, good trainer. He's been on the podcast, friend of ours. He's worked with us at HRD, great decoy. Jim O'Brien down at NC Canine in North Carolina, obviously. NC stands for North Carolina. NC Canine, letter K number 9. Great stuff, guys. Their police dogs are good. Floppy ear, pointy ear, dual purpose, single purpose, handler schools, better weather than we have in Ohio. Give him a call, 919-438-0141. Check out his website, nccanine.us. Hit him up on Instagram at nccaninellc. For them, guys, training is not a job. It is their life.
All right, we're back. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the Bite, here with Mike Jones from Primal Canine, talking about market training and integrating market training with decoy work. And how we got to this point, and how we teach new decoys not to mess dogs up, which is a skill. It's a skill all in of itself. So one of the things that Primal's done a lot lately, you have had some interaction, I guess. You guys have a good partnership with our friends out in Colorado Springs at Ray Allen. You've got two products for sure that I definitely want to kind of like talk about that you've highlighted. The first is the Decoy Armor, and the other one is the Hidden Treat Pouch. And I have individual reasons why I want to talk about each one, which are going to be hilarious. But so talk a little bit about the Decoy Armor, where it started, and why it's a thing.
So the Decoy Armor, I like to wear thinner suits, but I also like to work like a lot of duration in my bites. And like for me, like duration 5 to 10 minutes in a single bite, but depending on the dog, sometimes longer. And it's just like working like some high interval intensity training stuff, just conditioning and grip, switching through, drive manipulation, putting them in, the deep water and then taking them back out. And what I noticed is that, the neoprene itself, everything like that wasn't giving me longevity when it came to be able to work every single day with the dogs that I was working with. So I hit up Matt Wilson over at Ray Allen, and I was like, man, can we do some like KMPV style thing, like just something light over the top, just something that's puncture proof because my arm was getting pretty mangled up. And I mean, I think I got something within the month after of it, but it's become pretty funny. It's like the joke around Primal Canine is that it kind of came, at least for me personally, besides like the leg gauntlets that we're working on. Like my whole left biceps kind of like just like nerve dead. So like I wear this tiny like this tiny little like sleeve that's just like right here. And like that's pretty much like all I wear. Like it doesn't matter. Like I don't even have to wear those anymore. But I wear the leg ones, and for me I wanted it to be something to where I can work a dog for a long period of time. Bring them into that clarity, have them understand exactly what they're doing, and then still be safe and still protect other decoys. And the other thing too is that because we wear thin suits, it's that whole KMPV mentality where like that jutes over the leather, and they have to pull back and counter, and like dig in deeper, and it makes them want to go more. So that was on top of the suit that we created with Rayon, because I did the first. Actually, the reason why we actually made it was because we did the first prototype of the new Rayon suit, and that thing was baby blanket thing. Actually, I text Matt Wilson right after he sent it to me, and I was like, "Are you like, hey, did I do something wrong? Like, are we are we not like we not friends? Like I thought we were like okay." And like I worked the dog through because I was like, well, whatever, right? I'm not gonna be a bitch about it, so let's just go ahead and try it out. And after I think I did a little seminar tour in like New York and like Memphis, and I don't know where else we went, but after that, there's gigantic holes all over the suit, and I sent it to Matt. I was like, we need to do something if we're gonna run it this way. And then that's how the Decoy Armor kind of came into its own thing. But the stuff I'm really excited for that is the leg gauntlet. The leg gauntlet's the one that like I'm, at least for me personally, that's the one that I'm really excited for, because I feel like that's going to help a lot. And then this new like leather hidden leg sleeve that I'm working on with them as well.
Excellent. Those aren't available yet, right? The leg stuff.
No, Matt has to make like a little system for it.
Okay. Yeah. So when the Decoy Armor came out, I think you inboxed me or Alicia or somebody or Eric, and like we were all talking about it, and Matt was like, "Oh, I'm gonna send you something." I'm like, "Perfect, fucking send it." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll send it. I'll work on it." And so I was like, "Oh, what is this shit?" Anyway, so it shows up, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like it looks like a gauntlet. So Wilson, to his credit, is like it's supposed to be used under a suit. Or let me be accurate about this. He's like, it needs to be used with a suit, and I'm like, oh, okay, like with a suit jacket.
Can the suit be on the floor? Is
Well,
it? Or does it have to be in the room?
No, hold on. So I'm reading through this, and because I'm kind of like fucking Asperger, I like took it literally. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's like a fucking sport coat. Like this is a fucking hidden sleeve. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll fucking rock it. So at the time, Hagner was in my house, and for those that follow me on social media, whatever, like you guys know, fucking Sean. And he's an instructor for HRD, and he works with Torchlight. And, he's a great trainer. He's a fantastic decoy. And Sean and I are like, yeah, sure, fuck it, we'll try it. So I put it on, and I'm like, man, that's really thick. And I didn't think to text Matt and be like, are you sure? Like this, or even you, like, are you sure? Like this is how I'm supposed to use this thing by itself? So, and Sean and I are just kind of like, fuck it, whatever. So we had a couple of dogs in handler school that were like, that bite really fucking hard. So I thought, well, he said suit jacket, so I'm just going to cover it up with a suit, like a $5 thing I bought from Goodwill. Like it's a fucking homeless dude suit, right? It's a fucking $5 sport coat. It's a suit jacket. I didn't know he meant that suit. So Sean and I just stand there and fucking trade bites back and forth with this dog on these fucking hidden sleeves. And nobody died. Like, we didn't die. And Matt I don't know if he shit himself, but he was like,
He shit himself.
we had to have some discussions inside at fucking Ray Allen. So we're like, this not designed to be used alone. And every time, because I use them all the time like that now, like especially on back tie bites, where I know like I can, and I know the dog, and they're not gonna fucking get weird on me because there's not a lot of material there.
No.
And like if they like sink a tooth like out here, like it's gonna suck. That's gonna ruin my day. So, but we've done, Sean and I both have, and there's other people that do, but don't use them that way. But I'm here. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see like my tattoos are intact, and I've taken several bites that way. It's not an endorsement, nor should you do it that way. But they work really well under super lightweight suits. In fact, Arnaud is making me a new one because I use them now. I talked to him. What's today? Wednesday, I don't know, whatever, 2 days ago. And I said, hey, just make the sleeves like super, super fucking thin. And he's like, man, every time I do that, like you come back to me and you're like, hey, and that's how the whole hidden sleeve from Arnaud came about. But I was like, you just do it that way. And I have the Decoy Armor thing. He's like, oh, okay, cool. Perfect. So even Arnaud's like, oh yeah. So now, and I use it so that I could basically wear a Carhartt jacket and just stick my arm in dogs' mouths and not get fucked up.
Destroyed.
One of the other products you have, Eric really likes, and I haven't gotten one yet, and I should because I have a massive collection of hoodies.
So here's something funny. So this product, the first pouch that we got, the Cognito pouch. It's designed.
Right.
There's two ways to do it. There's one that's designed to go like in your pocket, keep treats, especially if you're a food trainer, keeps your pockets from whatever stinking and getting all oily and everything. The other one, which is amazing, is a hoodie incognito. It's kind of got that shape like a hoodie. One side of it you could put a ball or toy or Kong or something, and the other side you can put food in. It's designed to sit in the hoodie pouch, and I live in hoodies in this freaking state, so I'm in it all the time. So we're doing an HRD in Colorado, in Castle Rock. And we're at this school, and Matt was there helping us. He was decoying for us, Matt from Ray Allen. And he says, hey, look at this fucking thing, man. This thing is so cool. Mike came up with this great idea. And so I'm like, oh, dude, I love this. I still have it. It was the original one where he actually had it backwards, where the food was on the right and the toy was on the left. And they switched it. So I go back in another room, and I put my phone up and I make a video of it, right? Look at this badass thing. This thing is the best, Ray Allen, blah, blah, blah. And I put it up on my Instagram. And at the time I probably had about 18,000 followers at the time on Instagram. Within a few hours, or maybe even the next day, Matt's like, dude, they are blowing me up because these aren't ready. They're like 2 months away, and they're getting call, email. Where is it? I can't see it on your site. I'm like, oh, you didn't tell me that. I didn't.
You're welcome.
I don't remember prototype. You might have said it, but I'm not saying I was ignoring you. I probably was. But so, like, is it just shitty? Got tired of having shitty clothes? Like your stuff all smelling like whatever you're working, Bill Jack or hot dogs or whatever that did it, because it's so simple and it's pure genius.
Yeah, I mean the incog pouches came from me not wanting to wear an apron or freaking fanny pack. Sorry, KD. I respect your fanny pack, but I didn't want to do that. Like I was just like, I don't want to wear a trainer's vest. I don't want to wear all this other stuff. So like I want to wear something that's going to be the dog's understanding something's coming from me at any point in time, and I can keep my normal clothing fine. So I originally came up with Matt did this creepy DM, which we'll probably end up talking about later. Creepy DM, and I was like, hey dude, so because the Primal Canine Decoy Armor is the first thing I actually talked to him about. The incog pocket pouch was the second thing I talked to him about, and then we finished that when I flew out to Colorado, and I did like a working dog weekend at his shop. So we finished that one, but the idea behind it was just to make sure like no matter where you are, no matter where you're at, like the dog may think that you're training. Because I got the idea from one of my mentors. He was an old Schutzen guy, and this was like decades ago. I mean, I want to say like not decades, maybe like 16 years ago. but he used to spit hot dogs out to his dog during training, like when they would run the routine. So he would like pick something up, like that was his routine, out of the truck or out of the box. Something goes in his lip, and he would walk down. And then on trial day, he'd pick a rock up, something goes in his lip, and he would go down, and he would always get super high in obedience. So in my mind, I was consistently looking for something like, all right, cool, how can I make this a consistent thing behaviorally? And my hatred for wearing aprons and all the on and trainers vests kind of came to play, and now we have the incog clothing or incog treat system or treat pouch system, and then we actually have the incog clothing line coming out here, I believe, this week too.
Oh no,
Which is, yeah, we have the crew neck and the hoodie, which is a full blown like actually like sweater or hoodie that you wear.
I'll have 5 of them. Is it black? Because my
Yep.
wife is
Yes.
going to be like another black hoodie.
I don't even want to talk about it. I have one that's not black, and every time I get one, Alicia's like, "Really? Another one?"
gray.
I'm like, my favorite band was having like it was a fucking thing. I don't know what you mean
Right.
tell you. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and
It's,
take a break. When we come back, we want to get into a little bit of how Mike and Primal Canine are giving back into the community, and a super cool online instruction series that they have. Go ahead and take a break. Working Dog Radio, we love our sponsors. This episode is sponsored in part by Ray Allen at rayallen.com. Everything for dogs. Check out their 10% discount code using Working Dog Radio, all caps, rayallen.com for everything dogs.
Be sure to check out Dogtra also. Eric and I love Dogtra. It's what we both use at the kennel each day. I like the 1900S. Be sure to check them out at dogtra.com. Use the discount code WDR10 for 10% off any single item over $200.
Are you going to the Hits Canine this year, guys? The biggest and best conference in the United States, July 6th to the 9th, Scottsdale, Arizona. HitsCanine.net. Give Jeff Baird a call, 863-529-5113.
Making sure you have the right dog food is a super important part of running a working dog, whether it be police dogs, military dogs, or hunting dogs, or search and rescue. We like Kinetic Dog Food. The guys at Kinetic can be found at kineticdogfood.com. Area code 513-615-6904. Hit them up.
We got a brand new sponsor, our good buddy Jim O'Brien down at NC Canine in North Carolina. Full service kennel, police dogs, single purpose, dual purpose, handler schools, trainer schools. Check them out, nccanine.us. All right, everybody, we are back. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite. You can see we got Mike on the commercial break, flip his phone, so you get a nice full view of the tats and the beard. The beard is short though, man, comparatively to other times in your life that I've known you.
happy wife, happy life.
I get it. Yeah. Your wife and I will message every once in a while. She'll comment on something I post or whatever I comment. She's real cool. So that's the thickest fucking beard. I can't remember. You told us on the your show that we were on. Are you a Persian? I can't remember what your background is.
So I am Samoan, Japanese, Welsh, Spanish, and a bunch of other things. And to be honest, I don't even know if that's accurate in general. I was raised in a fairly crazy family, so everyone looked different. There's different shapes, or shapes and sizes of people, and so that's from what I know from what my family has told me and the people that have been around me for my life. That's pretty much what I know. My daughter is a half Iranian or Persian.
I think I remember that. Yeah, it's funny because when I see some folks like you with a beard, there's always reminds me of an episode of The Simpsons. Homer's feeling good, whatever, and he shaves his face, turns around, and grows a 5 o'clock shadow. Like as soon as he turns around. So yeah, we talked about we've talked about this before, but we talked about this when we were before we started recording about in your community where you're at. Besides, like, talk about how you ended up giving back, because you do a lot, man. You do a lot for the local area, the food bank, and just things with dogs, just helping people a lot. And like a lot of guys that have a young business, for example, that's like something they might really want to do, but it's just not, it's not financially of they're not able to do that, or they don't have the influence to do that. Where, like, how did it come about? Did you get to a certain point? You're like, cool, I can do this now. We've hit an area that makes it possible.
I didn't think about it like that. I mean, for me, I mean, I come from a you know, not to sound cliche, but I come from a fairly like rough background, and you know, being very poor and everything. So like everything that we do, I'm like, oh man, that's crazy. Like we're doing like this is like this nuts. We're doing this. Like it's all. So once I get a little bit ahead, like my immediate thoughts, like, okay, how can I help the people that are, you know, still trying to come up? So when we got through all the stuff we went through in Campbell and Morgan Hill, with the code changes and everything. And then, you know, we started this, we first started with the Free Dogs Foundation, which was our rescue where we were taking all the youthless cases. But then we got shut down in Campbell because the community didn't want us there, because it diminished their resale value, which is what we got told in court. And that's what the judge decided to move on. So then we moved to Morgan Hill, try to get our feet steady there. The community didn't really like the look of the company, or I'd probably just say the look of like probably myself, with that and the stuff that we did. And then I went through all that craziness, a couple other things, went to Gilroy, finally got settled. And for me, my main goal, because I always accredit dogs for kind of saving my life. And like, you know, like one of the quotes like I've said before is like, you know, dogs humanize me. You know, so it's always been something like I wanted to repay it back. So as soon as I got to a point to where I can take care of all my staff, everyone's settled, they're making a living, let me start giving back to the community that's helped us. And Gilroy helped me, and they helped me, you know, be able to be closer to my daughter, because my daughter lives like 10, 15 minutes away from our shop. They helped us like start our business, promote us throughout the community. So immediately I just went back to like, all right, how can I repay it? And you know, we work with the shelter now. We do multiple food drives, or multiple food programs where every weekend or every like once a week you can come down to, or it was Margaritas, Taqueria, where it's Taco Tuesdays, or Wednesdays you can go to Straw Hat Pizza and pick up a bunch of pizza and food for the family. And in our area, a lot of the people in our community, they're in the service industry, or they're getting cut off. They're non-essential, so they don't have. And we live in one of the most expensive states, so they don't have the money to be able to provide. And our our county wasn't doing the greatest job of helping anybody. So my immediate thought was, all right, cool. Like I don't care. Like we can run it. So let's go ahead and I pulled all my marketing budget that I did for our SEO, any social media ads, any marketing ads. My marketing team, my other company, War Room, we all did everything for free. We actually jumped into uh, like the restaurant industry. We started just offering free marketing and like online advisement for social media for like the companies that wanted to do online ordering that had no clue that they were going to do that. We started donating our time for other dog training companies, helping them get started and run and market themselves. And we just threw ourselves into the community, and we're just like, all right, let's just help. We had a decent amount of success. And like, for me, it's not a financial decision. It's just more of like, all right, like we're in a tough spot, or these people are in a tough spot. It's a tough time. Let's go ahead and help out and do exactly what we can. And I mean, it was kind of perfect place, perfect time, because at that time, Primal Canine went through all the stuff it went through, and we built up to the position that we were at. And at that point, once we started saying like, hey, we're going to doing this, I got a bunch of people messaging us and like, hey, we want to help. Like you guys did the same. Like, we want to help. We want to do this. Everyone was down to throw down. So we were able to take care of the community. But for me, it's been a two-sided thing. One, I want to give back to the dogs that helped save my life. And also I want to give back to the community that also did the same thing to me. So that was my deal.
Yeah, after all the other drama and you settle in Gilroy there, you were you a little gun shy for a bit? Like, this is cool, really? You guys are cool? You're not gonna pull the rug out from under me? We're not gonna get screwed here in a minute?
Was on the phone with LE almost every day. It was every phone call like, hey man, I'm working over here today. Just please don't, like, this is what's happening, or like, not just because because like I do majority of our behavioral cases and like the personal protection clients. My guys usually handle Matt and Lee and Brandon and Henry. They handle a lot of the pet stuff. So like for me, like anytime we would go out, I would like I would have to call PD and like hey, and then like, they actually got used to me. They're all right, thanks for they actually got really happy that we were calling in and I mean I love the city of Gilroy. I mean they've been nothing but nice to us. They've been super accommodating. I mean the police department here has been awesome. The I mean the con or whatever like the governor here and the mayor like I've had conversations with them. I did an interview with them. I mean like everyone's been super cool. So I'm stoked to be here. Unless I move out of California, I don't think I'll be leaving where we're at now.
That's really, that's something that when we were on your show, we talked about that, and it was like a shock to both Eric and I because that is not something that we have to deal with here at all. So, another project you have going on is Primal Canine University. So, kind of in the same vein of the drinks and dogs thing. What is PCU about?
So PCU started years back. I want to say 4 years back, where I was getting a lot of requests to do training with people who weren't in the state or even in the country. So I just started Primal Canine University. Like there's all these packages they can buy where we did like 1 hour conversations, like kind of like this, or like even it's like homework and everything like that. And then right before COVID happened, my PCU team now, Rumman and G, they actually or Rumman first approached me with like, hey, let's start doing courses. And this was about 5 months, I believe, before COVID hit. And so we started filming specific things in those courses and it was it's Primal Canine University, like that'll be what it is, like whatever, like they'll just be our thing because everyone else was going to have their own stuff anyways. And then COVID hit, and the team and I met because we did our war room conversation, and which is like the marketing company that we have. And I just was like, all right, I was like, well, I feel like it's especially with the quarantine, how serious things got here in California. I was like, I feel like it can be one perspective shown only. Like I want to make sure like people can see other qualified trainers perspectives as well and show like the world so people don't just go on YouTube and watch some like dumb dumb trainer on there. Like let's funnel it so it's gonna be like actually like good training. And so I talked to my guys. I reached out to some of the trainers that I'm friends with, and I was like, hey, are you like would you be willing to do anything to show your perspective? I don't care if I've done it, I don't care if you've done it. We offer a very fair split when you purchase like or purchase them like the trainers get, and we just kind of ran with it. But like it was during COVID, I wanted to make sure we brought this this platform that people can go ahead and download anytime they want, watch it while they're doing whatever, listen to it, see different perspectives. And PCU itself, although it's Primal Canine University, was made essentially to build a broader spectrum to like the dog training world and actually provide like really good information to people versus going on the freaking Google the Google machine or YouTube and seeing whatever positive reinforcement trainer has put themselves onto the front one because they're all freaking pheromone friendly.
Mm-hmm. Pheromone friendly. I like it. I like it. So, like,
Good.
Is it a fluid thing? Are you like constantly adding content? Or you it's going to be a little bit where you're at, or how does it work? You talk to somebody and you're like, hey, dude, would you do a thing on our PCU? How does that work?
It's fluid. I mean, it's so to be completely like transparent with you guys. To me, like I still don't understand how we got some of the trainers that we got on there to do the courses. Like I'm always kind of like, oh shit, like you want to do a course here, like that's cool. Like, and for me, it's all fluid. We have 60 plus courses already on there, and we're continuously building. We have this new platform that we're releasing here, hopefully by the end of the year, which is going to actually be kind of like the Netflix of dog training, where you'll have education and entertainment on the same platform. So you can actually register in there and be able to watch all the stuff. And we're developing that right now. And you guys have probably seen it. It's like the Road to Street League, the little docu series we had from our first Street League seminar. that we're just like the teaser. People can go on there. But the whole goal with PCU Online is to provide like a one-stop shop for dog training, but it's all fun too. But as far as fluidity, I mean, it's been incredibly fluid. I mean, I have a lot of guys who have been weather bound. They can't do the courses because they don't have facilities. And I've had trainers who have been stuck in doing busy stuff, doing the normal pet stuff. And most of these guys are pet trainers. But I mean, I consistently film every Thursday. I'm adding a couple more trainers in here, and then they're going to be filming their courses. And I mean, it's going to be consistent for a long period of time, and it's always going to be revisions of it because things are going to change. Me and the way I think is that styles change consistently within the person. So like you're going to consistently change and progress and do different things, and you can do a revamp of it. And then plus with the street league exercises, I'm sure like Ted, as you know, like being a PSA decoy, like there's different scenarios, different training things going on. So like what we're going to provide on PCU is also like the street league courses to get ready for trial and everything like that as well. And Nesbeth, a mutual friend of ours, actually is going to be the street league detection head guy, and then
awesome.
and then Duart's going to run the freestyle LB. So there's lots of fun things coming down the pipeline with that stuff. So it's just about creating a lot of different perspectives and knowledge and being more positive within the industry.
Awesome. That's something that needs to be done because, I think COVID, there was something that was always going on in the background on that. We've had guys try and do that fairly. I mean, the first major success was Ed Frawley, right? With the whole Learberg series and that kind of thing. And that was, I don't know if this was pre-internet, but it's definitely fucking pre-YouTube and um, pre all that other shit. Yeah, and he brought in, Ellis, and Michael Ellis was our, 100th interview, which is fucking fantastic. That guy, listen to that dude talk about dog training is fucking fantastic. So, and he was, he was really kind of like the first, like not celebrity, but you know what I mean, like the first guy that people like was well known that did that whole process with Ed Frawley and that whole series that they've done. So and one of our other guests, Ritland, has done a similar version for pet people for with his team dog deal. It's been wildly successful. So there is definitely a outlet for that and a need for that. And I keep waiting for hunting guys to do it. There's some fucking badass hunting trainers in the United States that would benefit massively from that. And there's a lot of trainers in every venue that would do. And Pat Nolan and his wife Connie have done that with obedience. I mean, watching Connie work obedience and some of their webinar stuff has been fantastic. So with the advent of COVID, the one thing that has happened is, we're doing this interview right now. You're in California, I'm in Oklahoma, and Eric's up in fucking Canton, and we're having this conversation so we can continue to do all of this. And I think that's kind of the next logical step. There's never be any replacement for like hands-on stuff. And when we start talking about decoy stuff, people are like, "Oh, can you do decoy stuff via Zoom?" And I'm like, I mean, there's still a little bit that you gotta like. There's no replacement for displacement, like in drag racing. Like, there's just no replacement for getting fucking smoked by dogs all day. I mean, there's just not, like, there's no way around it. I mean, the way that I always say is like, you can watch, like, there's no replacement for getting in the gym and lifting. Like, you can't learn through osmosis. So but I think what you're on to is a very important thing. Like, you're trying to get people like pointed in the right direction, and like you said, with the advent of the fucking Google machine and YouTube, people are like, oh, I can put anything up online, and if you read it online, it's true. Everybody knows that. So yeah. So where can everybody find you? Social media, anti-social media, like where do we find you guys?
So Primal Canine, we're located in Gilbert, California, which is whatever 30 minutes south of San Jose. Online, Primal Canine or at Primal Canine on Instagram. I believe we have a TikTok, but I'm not allowed to use it. My wife told me no more projects. Facebook /Primal Canine. I mean, other than that, I mean, if you're trying to find me in person, I'm usually at work or up at, the house working these dogs and doing the stuff we're doing. It's pretty consistent. And PCU online is another thing. Street League is a sport that's coming out, hopefully, or the last certifications in April with Ray Allen, our partners over there. And then Memphis would be the first trial. So that information will be coming out pretty soon here. But lots of projects in the work. I mean, there's tons of things happening here.
I think for Street League, you should be required to teach your dog to do a kickflip on a skateboard.
Yes.
Yeah. If we're putting it in there, Street League, you California dudes, pretty good skateboarders.
Yeah.
Do a kickflip. And the whole crowd yells it. Do a kickflip, and your dog has to do it right there. 1,000 points. Done.
You guys are gonna love some of the scenarios.
Yeah, that'll be pretty cool.
Upper levels, all hidden suit.
That's awesome. I loved having you on, Mike. This business of Canine has a ton of negativity in it, and it's not so much outside looking in; it's inside looking around, right? So having people in the business that are doing a lot of positive things. I'm sure, listen, everybody has days and things like that. But I've never heard, and all the times we've talked, you just lose it or anything like that. You seem to be, always forward with ideas and thinking, revenue streams. People in business, if you got one, you're in trouble. And the COVID showed that to a lot of folks. So being innovative. I tell Matt all the time, I go, I'm going to come up with some shit. I think I'm pretty creative. I'm going to invent some stuff and I'm going to contact them. Dude, I'm drawing a fucking blank. I got nothing.
Yeah, we have we have the Tricos thing, the collar that we designed for them and then sold it off, and Ray Allen makes it now, which is super nice. Yeah, I mean,
Matt tried to hit me with that gigantic weapon of a thing.
Yeah, that buckle. But boy, you can hit that with the buckle on your leash from like 17 feet away. What? A cowboy.
We got, when we were making those things before Ray Allen made them, we got a fucking video from, I'm not going to say who, but from what branch they're from, but from a branch of the military. And they're like, these things are fucking great. They're indestructible. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're using it to pull shit out of a ditch. And then they had it used to tie something down in a fucking helicopter. And I'm like, it's not how that shit's supposed to be used, fellas. They're like, no, it's great. It's the same stuff. And I'm like, no.
You see, you're the same way. That's the same thing with you in the
I know. That's why I brought it up. That's why I brought it up, because now I understand what Matt's going through, and I assume it'll do it anyway. I don't give a shit. So I'm still going to be like, here, hold my beer. Give me the thin one. Let's do this. And nobody's going to die. So
Decoy armor and a bathrobe. That's your next video. You need to
there you go.
I can do that. I can do
just put a disclaimer and he'll be fine.
Be like,
gotta get that Gucci bathrobe though.
It'll be
just
like Uncle
down.
Eddie standing out there next to the fucking sewer saying shitter's full. And next to the fucking
dog smashes you.
Yes. Now we have to do it. Alicia's going to edit this episode, and she's literally going to look at me and be like, you're going to have to do that now. And I'm like,
there you go.
He's gonna nod and be like, "Okay, fine. I'll get one of the dogs and we'll do it. It's fine." Excellent. So this has been a fantastic episode, Mike. Thanks for coming on. This was one. Also, like, we have a super long short list, which sounds ridiculous, but this has always been one that we've wanted to do. I super appreciate you coming on, man. It's been awesome.
Awesome, man. Well, I thank you guys, man. I've been a fan of the show for a long time, and big supporters of what you guys do with HRD, Working Dog, and like all the Torchlight and Van S stuff, everything. Every time I can get a chance, I like to promote and recommend you guys' stuff, and Working Dog dry goods and everything. So appreciate for having me on. It's a big honor for me. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
All right, brother. We appreciate it.
And everybody else, we'll see you soon.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.
There you guys.